This is Denis Taaffe. I'm a guitarist. I'm in my home studio, and I wanted to go through the making of my 210th album called Modern Guitar Vol.210 Ruins. Now, prior to this, I had done about 200 albums using a setup, a rack guitar setup, and the rack guitar setup was fine, but then I discovered an Albion amp, and it was a hybrid amp, and it was really refreshing because it was so clean. I mean, you could hardly tell it was on, even though it was actually quite loud. You'd hit a note and then you'd know it's on, but before that it was super quiet. I can't say the same for my rack setup, which was very loud, but also very noisy. And that really changed my playing style altogether. And so this Albion amp really opened a new door for me musically. And very much a fan of Tangerine Dream, that did synthesizer music, soundtracks, film soundtracks and things. And I always wanted to do that kind of thing on guitar. Very much influenced by Philip Glass, David Gilmour, for his use of delays and things. So I built a pedal board around the Albion amps. Kind of crazy, and Albion went out of business, unfortunately. But I tried to get quite a few Albion amps. So I run 2 in stereo, and I got an Eventide time factor digital delay, which is very clean as well. It has great delay sounds. And then, of course, still using boomerang pedal boards. A lot of looping, which I used to do in my prior albums. Now, around, I'm not sure when exactly, 2016 maybe, or 2015, I hit my 200th album, and that's when I started experimenting with this new style. I gotta remember, all my music is improvised on the spot, so it's just recorded live on 2 tracks, in fact. If doing guitar, in my prior albums, I had simulated bass and drum machines, so it was more tracks as well. But since the 200th album, we went with this kind of new style. It was really developed for smaller gigs, no drums and that kind of thing. And I'll tell you, one thing I found is, for me, drums and bass, as far as improvising, are almost like are so much easier to improvise over, because there's a structure there. Whereas when you're just improvising out of nothing, with no drums, no bass, it's really, you have to, create everything from scratch. It's much harder, I found, but much more interesting in a lot of ways. It's the kind of, for me, from the 200th album on, is the kind of music I love listening to in my car, especially. It's kind of soothing, but it creates an atmosphere and a mood, which was what my music's all about to begin with. Really nice for late at night as well. It's just very interesting, anyway, to me. So then the reason why I'm doing album 210 is since about 2000, I was a member of the Recording Academy, which let me submit CDs into the Grammy Awards. Now, it was very nice, to be listed there with a bunch of, real famous artists and things. I never got enough votes to be nominated and so on, but that didn't really stop me at all. Maybe it should have. But I went ahead and entered this album for this year's Grammy, 2017. So I thought we'd go through this album, 210, and to be honest with you, I'm not all that familiar with it, even though I created it. Because remember, everything's improvised on the spot. And it's a lot harder, one wrong note, it's over. So, especially with looping and those kinds of things. And what you'll hear is a lot of David Gilmour influenced delays, a lot of delayed guitar, and that kind of thing. And also, what I had in mind the whole time that I was recording these tracks is specifically for film. Imagine a scene in a film, or creating a mood and atmosphere. Alright, so the first track is called Ruins. And I'm just going to play it here in my studio monitors, and you'll hear it with the camera audio, so it's not great audio, but it'll give you an idea. Okay, so this one, we'll start it out here, and hopefully you can hear me over the music. Okay, so here it is starting out, and what you'll hear is that delayed guitar that I'm talking about that I really love. And these are the Albions here. This is a 2-track recording. And you'll hear also the guitar swells. That's where I hit a note and then bring up the volume. You don't hear the pick, so it kind of sounds like a synthesizer or a voice or something like that. And so right there I'm looping the delayed guitar and bringing in these single note swells. So let's see where that goes. So there's the guitar starting out, and here I'm listening to it, coming up with ideas. Not sure where to take it from here. Starting to get an idea musically. So there's that a minor chord played on the Albion's guitar. And all of the loops are going through the Albion too, and that's how I can record with just 2 tracks. They're so quiet, you can hear the quiet sound so much so. If you listen closely, you can probably hear me coughing at times or chair creaks. I try to be quiet while I'm playing, and I don't really have time to listen to the whole track because it's 9 minutes and 28 seconds. When I start playing and improvising, I kind of lose myself, I'm focused so much on the sounds and finding ideas and things and playing. I lose track of time pretty easily. So here it is. And the name of the track is Ruins, which is the same name as the album. But really, I come up with a name after the recording. I wasn't thinking, let's create a track called Ruins, at the time. But we'll listen to it here for a little bit. just brought in another loop, a third one. And I keep looping these ideas together. So I really like this kind of guitar, you know, this creates suspense in a way, you know. And I'll tell you what, it's very nice when you're on stuck in traffic on a hot summer day. Turn on the air conditioning and you can play that. By the way, I do have the air conditioning on. It's hot in here. It's about 1 in the morning, so you can probably hear that on the recording as well. Not on the actual CD recording, but the camera recording. So here I have a good idea of what key I'm in. I'm not sure it's either B minor or E minor. I don't remember which. So from there I build on ideas. Yeah. So in here you can hear the regular guitar, and looped I have several tracks or several loops of delay guitar, creating that almost a percussive effect, which I think is very important if you're doing this kind of thing. You know, there's this drone guitar, or I forget, ambient guitar or whatever. My God, it's the most boring thing in the world because it has no percussive effects at all, and so it just goes along, man. It doesn't work for me anyway. It's just too boring. Here it's kind of percussive, almost as if they were using mallets, you know what I mean? Xylophone or whatever it is. It's kind of like that. And so I'm building up ideas. I was thinking very much also kind of John Carpenter themes, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard the Halloween theme, you know, it's that kind of thing. That's what I was going for here. And then from there, it's just a simple case of improvising different guitar parts over this. So, let's fast forward a little bit, because they're pretty long. Okay, now here, I did add some bass notes, and actually what those bass notes are is a loop of guitar dropped an octave, played right here. It's pretty subtle, but it's there. It's kind of menacing in the background, you know. And there's the little, I almost call them ghost notes that create a type of melody, you know. And again, much like you'd hear in a film soundtrack. Yeah. So there are lots of loops going on here. I have on this one 3 major loops, and then on each one of those I can add other loops on top of each one. And so this is actually a distorted guitar, and it's the same thing. I don't pick, I pick the initial note, but I keep the volume down so you don't hear the pick, and then bring up the swell. And this is kind of the ending here. And so it creates this mood atmosphere, not necessarily very happy. Okay, this next one's called Decay. Real familiar. Oh, yes. This one. Here's Decay. Now this one features the Albion amp and how it can really be very dynamic, and you can pop out chords, you know, chords much louder than the rest of your playing. And on this one, at the time I was working with a booster pedal, a booster sound. So I was trying to do that with the Albion amps and a loop, and you'll hear it here. It's on the verge of distorting, but it's still clean. Yeah, there's that damn. And there I just added a loop, little clean loop to complement it. And here you can hear that besides that, I'm also mixing these delayed guitar patterns that create, again, that percussive attack. And then from then on, it's just a matter of improvising over that with the guitar. I very much like the mood it creates. Think of the movie Thief. Tangerine Dream did the soundtrack for it. It's very much this kind of thing. Creating that suspense. That's just normal delayed guitar. Okay, and here it's actually fading out. I had a few swell notes at the end. Swell notes as in not swell. Okay, now this is Disrepair. And this one is still using the Albion amps and the delay and the looping, but much slower tempo, as you can tell. And here I've got a melody, kind of sappy, and then I put harmonics over that. And one of the harmonics, this one right there, is theoretically not quite correct, but I left it in there because I found that it gave it this ambiance that makes it very interesting, kind of a, you know. And here I've got some backwards guitar in the melody looped. You can barely tell it's in there, little notes. This is kind of what I do at night, you know, after a day of doing whatever, everything that needs to be done. It's nice to just sit down and play guitar. So always recording a track, you know. This was one night where I didn't have much time, and this is what I recorded. Now here, of course, I have to have my little percussive delay patterns that I love. I just love awful boring, you know, to me anyway. I mean, this slow, you know, melody. I was also careful with the chords that I was using, you know. And then they're bringing the harmonics back in, the loops, and so on. It's alright. It fits for the album. Not terribly exciting, I guess. Okay. And then basically I solo over it with just regular clean guitar. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Okay. Now here's another late night track, and that's how I create these albums. I create a couple of tracks, you know, at night when I have time, and then eventually piece them together into an album, and that's what I've done here. Okay, now this one I really like too. Same thing, it has the percussive delays that I use, you know, those pattern delays. However, they're not muted that much, right? So you hear it, it's not tack, 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 tack. It's real smooth there. And there I've added some harmonics, second guitar part, and then a third part. And what I remember about this one is that by themselves, the lower chords I was playing were real dissonant. You know, they didn't sound like anything nice. However, in this context, they fit perfectly, which is interesting. Yeah. And here, same thing, I'm improvising, so I'm listening to where it should go, you know, trying to create a mood or atmosphere. And this one could have gone in a lot of different directions. It could have been a super happy track, it could have been a super sad track, you know. So building on that, and this one's about 7 minutes 54 seconds, so let's fast forward a bit to see where I took it ideas wise. Let's say 4 minutes. Okay, and there, see, I started hearing a melody there, so I played the melody kind of with a clean guitar. And that little clean guitar, those are little solo fills. And you hear the delayed pattern guitars starting to build and create this pattern. Tuck, 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 tuck. Okay. Yeah, so this one's kind of ambiguous in the sense it's not overtly happy or overtly sad. It's kind of neither. It's kind of neutral. You know, it kind of goes both ways. It's a bipolar track, if you like. Okay, now let's move on to the next track. Now the next track is called Submerged, and I really, really like this track. This was when I came up across a sound, a guitar sound, with some heavy filtering, and I just found it really interesting. Definitely worthy of a track, so I worked with it, and it turned out nicely. And it's called Submerged, which now when you hear it, you know, you go, oh yeah, it does sound like you're freaking underwater or something, you know. But at the time, it was just an interesting sound I'd come across, and inspired me to create some loops and improvise over that. So here it is. Let's try that one. Yeah, here it is. See that filter on that guitar kind of gives it that underwater kind of sound. And so I'm looping this as the main part of the track. And then I can tell I'm playing some clean guitar, playing those same chords over the bass line. I think the bass line was a G, maybe. So I really like this track. I think it was a lot of fun to come across that sound and be actually, be able to use it musically. Because when you're just jamming around, you come across some weird sounds, you think, well, it's alright, but it's not real musical. So to be able to use it musically is worthwhile. And I think I added, I'll fast forward it here a bit. Yeah, here I added some kind of crazy little solo guitar. A lot of those are harmonics. So it's a real short track, but I really like it. I think it's Submerged is a really good title for it, because that's really what it sounds like. Okay, on to Relics. Now by this time I think I've really found those delay patterns, percussive patterns, so I use those quite often. And then this is another example of that. You can hear the patterns repeating. And then the main guitar over that. And so here I'll build improvisation over that. Yeah, for example, you can hear a guitar going da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, da-na. And that's the equivalent of a bass guitar. And if I guess correctly, I think I dropped that an octave, and I did, right there. Hear that da-na-na-na. Now it's dropped an octave. Unfortunately, because of firmware update on the looper, instead of going at the same speed, it goes at half speed. Interesting, not very useful. It was hard to use here. Eventually I'll run that firmware update and fix that, but and that's the problem when you like the looper is not made anymore. The company's out of business. The amps are out of business. And that affects, what you're able to do playing-wise. But it worked out very well on this track here. So there you hear, I've got several layers of those little delay patterns, and they're all syncing together. Even though there are no drums, a lot of times I'll sync all the tracks via MIDI. I have a smart clock that sends out MIDI clock, keeps everything in time. Unfortunately, the phrase sampler can do that too, but it doesn't do it quite as well. And in fact, depending on what mode you're in, it doesn't sync the tracks together. You have to manually play them in time, which I think when I started doing this kind of thing, I had a real hard time getting the timing right, you know, to get those patterns to sync together. So here I've got the delay patterns, and then I've got the single note guitars, you know, and they're kind of competing for who's the boss, basically, of the track. And there it looks like the delay patterns right here. So there I've got probably 3 or 4 of those synced delay patterns. You know, each one is playing different notes. You know, and now here's some backwards guitar right here. It's basically a guitar that's looped and then played in reverse. Creates this kind of sound. What I really like about the reverse sound there is that it's not overwhelming the track, you know. I mean, yes, it's present. When I used to do recordings, I would sometimes overwhelm everything, you know. Here you can hear it, it's there, but it's not overwhelming. And there's just some regular clean guitar. Oh, and this one's called Relics. It's about 5 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, here's where the syncing of all the tracks, especially the percussive tracks, is real difficult. And a lot of it has to do with the looper not syncing the tracks automatically. So if you don't start it right at the right time, you're SOL. And when I listen to earlier tracks doing this, I guess it's a skill you learn eventually. So there's just an ending with a clean guitar. Okay, and I believe we have one more track, and it's called Rebuild. And I don't remember what it is at all until I hear it. Let's see. Ah, yes. Okay, now this one, I really like this track. It has that repeating note there that goes da 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 da, you know, and that is a really, you can thank David Gilmour for that, you know, on the wall when he does Run, for example. He uses that kind of delay. We're repeating that note, and with the Albions and the delay and so on, they're so clean that those chordal notes above it, you know, right here, this dun, 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 create a melody that I really like, and I really like the sound of the guitars there. So that's one guitar, and then I start looping that and add a couple of harmonics. And that's definitely the, you know, the main melody of the track is a yeah. And you know, one thing I didn't want to do was to use delays in the way, you know, to recreate the sound of Pink Floyd or the sound of U2 or that kind of thing, you know. But I wanted to use it in a different way, and I think I've done that, or at least I'm doing that, trying, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the edge and the U2 and the delay sounds. I just don't want to do the same thing, you know. I like to use delays, but definitely, you know, not the way that they use them exactly. So there I had a couple little ghost notes, you know. And now here I'm building on the track, slowly adding that bass note. Yep. And there I found the chord that works well with it, you know, instead of just a bar chord or what have you. Yeah, that's a suspended chord. So, and then just improvising over it. Yeah, there are a few solo kind of things. I'm very much in the style of Jimi Hendrix type fills, like on Little Wing and things like that. That kind of double stop clean sound. Yeah. And I really like where that string is constantly playing throughout the whole track. It keeps it real steady, you know. And if you think about it in terms of ambiance or mood, you know, you can hear it's not building terribly, you know, it's building a little bit. I mean, I've added now a second guitar part. You can hear that, right? Real light, there's a clean part now playing, you know. Let's develop the track a little more. But in terms of mood or atmosphere, I can very much see this in a film, you know, not as a main theme, but as, you know, part of the film. And in fact, it's called Rebuild, and in fact, to me, it sounds very much like that, you know. It's kind of building up to something. But who knows what other people will think. And there you go. That's it. That's volume 210. And I'm really, really pleased with it. It's very soothing record, sound-wise, without being boring. You know what I mean? You know, for example, if you listen to a lot of New Age music, you know, it's fine, it's real soft and things, but my God, it's boring too, you know. So I really like this album, and I think if you understand my mindset in creating this album, you know, it's all about creating moods and atmosphere that would be perfect for film. And it's very pleasant to listen to, surprisingly. I mean, I really enjoy it. And I have to say, while I liked my older albums, kind of, you know, rock And don't get me wrong, I still play rock things. Musically, I didn't quite enjoy them as much, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting older, that's possible. But I really enjoy the guitar sounds here. They're real clean sounds, which is really what I was going for. So I'm going to see where this style takes me. I'm already working on album 211, and I have some tracks I really, really like. It's a different style. It's as I said, it's a lot more difficult, I've discovered. Just when you have bass and drums, and that's what you're improvising off of, it's a lot simpler. Then it's almost like you have training wheels. When you take that away, and you've got to start from nothing, that's more difficult. But it's also surprising the kind of moods and atmospheres you eventually do create. Granted, some are better than others, but I'm very, very pleased with this album. Very much. I think it's a good album. It's definitely a departure from my previous albums, especially the rock albums. Now, what style is it? Well, and that was a real problem for me with the Grammy entry as well. You have to specify a style. And I wasn't quite sure. Is it rock? Yeah, maybe. I guess. Is it new age music? I think it is. I think so, but maybe not. Or is it, they also had a contemporary instrumental. And that would be accurate, because it's contemporary, it's instrumental. I don't know, you decide, I guess. But definitely that's the direction I'm heading in. I'm excited, though, I have some other things in mind that I'm going to be trying. And eventually I'll bring in my drums and bass back in, my simulated bass. I'll do that as well, but for right now, I really like it as it is, I think it's really hard to find electric guitar album that isn't all, solos all the time, and late at night, if you want to listen to something and you're going to sleep, well, you don't want to hear that, right? It's not musical at all, it's impressive to hear, but musically, it's just not. It's noise. It's. I'm being harsh because I really love that stuff. Like 80s rock guitar type stuff. But musically, I think this right here, I really enjoy it. It's and it's soft without being too boring, I still have a lot of work to do to develop this style, you have to remember those, for the rock stuff, that was 200 albums, and that took me 20 years, maybe 30 years of developing that stuff, So I'm bringing that over here, but really, I haven't done this too long. In fact, I'm still building this small pedal board. This was always, the idea was, this was for small shows, you know, little cafes and things. I mean, I'd bring in 2 little combo amps and my tiny pedal board. You know, I never imagined that it would evolve into anything else, but it has, and I'm really grateful for that, because I really like it. You know, now other people might say, man, I don't know what you see in that, what you hear in it, and that's fine. I understand. But for me, I really, really enjoy it. Now, I think it'd be interesting to see what category the Recording Academy puts me in. If it'll be, I think the only 2 categories I put them in was Contemporary Instrumental and New Age. One of those 2. You can only do 2, and I had already done those. I wanted to do the rock category too, because it is kind of rock. Maybe. To me, you know, electric guitar is rock guitar, but not. You know, and to me, you know, it's kind of hard to find modern electric guitar music that, one, isn't squealy, you know, Van Halen-ish type, you know, virtuosity, soloing type stuff, or that screaming metal type stuff. You see what I mean? Or, God forbid, the jazz, which I'm just not a fan of. I just don't get it. I don't hear it. It sounds to me like somebody speaking in a foreign language I don't understand. You know? So other than that, I just don't know of many, you know, guitar albums like that. I think Al Di Meola, I think a while ago, he had some albums that were kind of like that. Recently, Andy Summers has done some albums like that. Oh, they were kind of boring. Look, I'm a big fan of Andy Summers, but damn it, they were got a little bit boring, because you know, he don't, I think, too much into jazz stuff. Or what do you call it? Fusion, yeah. Fusion stuff, you know. I used to listen to, like, Frank Gambale stuff, and I liked his stuff. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But, so, for me, this is a fresh direction, and something I'd like to really develop and build on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still play my rock stuff and things. But if I were to play a concert, you know, I mean, I'm nearing 50 years old, okay? I'd like to age gracefully, if possible. And so I can play this type of stuff, you know, and really enjoy it. And I can still do the rock stuff, you know, on there. But to me, this is more of a challenge and a little bit more mature sounding. You know, we can call it that. Okay, so anyway, there's 1-2-10. Oh, I guess I should mention, while the album will most likely be in one of the Grammy categories, over all the years I've done, I've never had enough votes to become a Grammy nominee, which will be the next step. Doesn't bother me, it's fine. I enjoy, you know, just being listed there is interesting, and being there with, you know, a bunch of famous musicians I grew up listening to, even. And to me, it validates a little bit, you know, the albums I'm doing. But Grammy or no Grammy, I'd still create these albums, you know. And people say, my God, why would you have 210 albums? A lot of it is because I enjoy listening to them, you know, and after 2 or 3 weeks you want to hear something new, so you want to continue. And what I noticed, what I never realized, is that it would eventually show my development on guitar as well, and musically too. You know, how I evolved musically as well, and guitar equipment wise, you know. Every major change I've had musically has been because of a piece of gear, either an amplifier or a pedal board or looping pedal or delay or what have you. You know, that's always changed my music and so on. Okay, well, so basically what I'm trying to say is Volume 210 Ruins has no chance of being Grammy nominated, you know, obviously. You know, I suppose if I was on a major label, it might have a possibility, but here's, you know, just me putting it out there. However, for me, it's a significant album in the sense of improvisation and the musicality of it. You know, I really like the style, and hope other people would too. You know, maybe there'd be like less road rage shootings. You know, people would just chill out and listen to it. It's really enjoyable. You know, I have a CD player in my car, and I just pop the CD in, and it's really, you know, it's not that it's designed, you know, for driving. That's not it. But it's very interesting. It works well with that. Highly recommend it. Okay, that's Volume 210 Ruins. And I'll be making some other, the making of albums, you know. We got quite a few to make, and I think what I'll do is, at first anyway, pick up the more significant ones, you know, or why they were significant or important to me anyway. Okay, and so this is one of them. Alright, see you next time.